Let's get more perspective now on the Trump administration and how chaos in the White House could impact Silicon Valley. Here with me now in the studio, Roger McNamee, co-founder of Elevation Partners and my guest host for the hour. Roger, of course, Silicon Valley came out widely against Trump. What's been the reaction over the last several weeks and months as these, one after another, revelation has unfolded?
Well, to be clear, the stock market has had no problem with any of this.
Exactly, and especially not tech stocks.
Especially not for tech stocks. So at some level, you know, people in Silicon Valley are very happy with what's happened to their stock valuations. Where I think the challenge comes in, I think this is huge, is that, you know, with all of the focus on fake news, there's been a failure to appreciate that the real challenge from the Russians came with manipulating public opinion around things that people may have believed, reinforcing them so strongly that it caused some people not to vote and other people to get into various emotional states that weren't healthy. And the thing we don't want to lose sight of is that is still going on. There was a report out this morning about the Russians putting bots into Twitter, again, to influence public opinion in the United States. And I think the tech industry has, to this point at least, gotten a free pass on all of this stuff. And we're really talking about the folks who are in the persuasion business. So this is Google, this is Facebook, to a lesser extent Twitter, but others, you know, who are in that ecosystem, who are in the persuasion business, their tools are being exploited by unfriendly people in ways that are not helpful. And this isn't the result of a strategy by any of these companies. This is an unintended consequence of an incredibly successful business model.
And as you say, the stock prices of Google and Facebook, for example, continue to rise higher and higher. What are their responsibilities when it comes to fake news, when it comes to these concerns about tech addiction?
So I don't worry so much about fake news. I think the fake news thing is a convenient way of distracting attention from the real problem, which is that the techniques of persuasion that are necessary to make an advertising model work, those techniques of persuasion aren't just between Facebook and its users, but any advertiser who uses Facebook. And bad things have happened, many of them unintended. And my simple point here is, let's have a conversation about it. I don't pretend to have the answer. And I know these are good people. You know, this isn't like, oh my gosh, we have these bad guys in a castle throwing thunderbolts at the people. I don't think it works that way. I think this is a model that when these companies were small, couldn't do any harm to anybody. But when you have 1.9 billion members in Facebook, as Facebook does, or a billion in Instagram, or 1.4 billion in Google, or 1.3 billion in YouTube, you essentially have the influence of a very large country, or in the case of Facebook, several very large countries. And at that level, there is responsibility, and I just want to have a conversation about what the limits of that responsibility might be.
Well, how does this play out in a very highly politicized and polarized environment? So, for example, whenever I tweet anything about Trump on Twitter, a neutral story, or a factual story, I get rained down on by the Twitter trolls.
I agree. I mean, this is what's so difficult about it, right? Is that people's positions have become hardened, not because they're bad people, but because the tools of persuasion have been so effective at essentially reinforcing existing beliefs and making them less flexible. And I don't have the answer. I just want to have the debate. This isn't about good people versus bad people. This is about a technology that began with the best of intentions that has inadvertently put us in a place where we don't have control of it anymore. And the people who do have control of it don't have as much control as they thought they had, right?
There have been a lot of concerns about Trump's impact on the tech agenda, whether it's immigration or net neutrality. Do you see those things actually coming to fruition?
I think that the immigration issue is a huge problem. They've already taken steps. I think the one part of this administration that has worked really effectively has been the Department of Justice. And it's been doing it by attempting to take us back to a time when we were shall we say, less balanced, less fair country. And you know, I think in very awful ways, we are hurting ourselves as well as the people who are affected with immigration status issues. You know, I think it's terrible for the economy. It's going to be bad for the agricultural economy. It's going to be terrible for the tech economy. And you've already seen a big impact on college applications and grad school applications from people coming in from the outside. You've seen a huge impact on tourism. And for what? What possible benefit are we getting from this? And so that part scares the heck out of me, because this country, our culture should be better than that. And our economy, we have to stop pretending that our economy will be better if we take these amazing people out of it.
A lot of these tech giants were also counting on a big corporate tax cut, potentially a big tax holiday on bringing cash home from overseas. There's now some uncertainty around that and around the entire agenda. What does that mean for tech?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think the tech companies needed to repatriate cash. In fact, I know they didn't. I also don't know that they were counting on it. I think there were short-term shareholders who were hoping to get a big windfall from it. I think at the end of the day, whether it happens or doesn't happen is a less an issue for tech than the other really direct impacts on employees and on customers and frankly on trade. I mean, to the extent that global markets are jeopardized in any way, that's terrible for tech. These are global companies, and they operate, not just in the United States, but in China and in Mexico and in Canada and Africa and Europe and Asia.
So we have yet to see these potential terrible consequences.
Well, I would actually argue that you see the beginnings of it. When we have graduate student applications being down dramatically, when you have tourism down dramatically. Those are direct impacts of these policies, which will ripple through to the entire economy. Maybe it won't affect iPhone sales on the first day, but eventually somebody is going to have a problem with this behavior, and they're going to have a response. And that response may be something we really don't like, and then you're in a trade war. And who benefits from that? Nobody.